What's going on, everybody? It's Joel here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Vulcan Scull rower. So I've been using this as my primary rowing machine for about the last 2 months now, in place of the standard Concept2 Model D. That's what I have in my CrossFit affiliates. Obviously, if you are a CrossFit affiliate, you're going to want something that you're going to be able to use in the CrossFit Open. And no matter what, the Vulcan Scull rower, no matter how good it is, it's still never going to be the standard, right? You can use it definitely to train for, the CrossFit Open, the CrossFit Sanctionals, or even the CrossFit Games if that's the level athlete that you are, but it will never be the standard, which is the Concept2 rower. That being said, I still don't think it's a bad option if you wanted to stock up on something that was a little bit cheaper and you wanted to be able to service people, something that people could still get a workout in, then I think the Vulcan Scull rower is an awesome machine. I don't feel like the effort that I put into this is any different than on the Concept2, but I do notice that I do reach my goals a little bit faster on the Vulcan. It does get me to my destination a little bit quicker. I pull calories a little bit faster on the Vulcan Scull in comparison to the Concept2. It's not a whole lot faster. Typically, it would be like, if I was going to like 50 calories, it would probably be about a 5-calorie difference, which, yeah, in a workout is gonna be a huge difference, but when it comes down to effort and if you just wanted to get a workout in, then the Vulcan Scull rower is definitely a good machine. And in some ways, I like it better than the Concept2, but then there are some things that I like about the Concept2 better than the Vulcan Scull rower. So I'm gonna take you guys on a walk around, and then I'm gonna show you guys the differences between the Concept2 and the Vulcan Scull rower. But first, we're gonna start with that walk around. All right, so right away, the first thing that you're gonna notice when taking the Vulcan Scull rower out of the box, or even just carrying the box, is that it's heavy. It's considerably more heavy than the Concept2 Model D. And you're gonna feel that mainly in the slide area. It's a very, very solid piece of metal. At least this track is right here. The top track, not too different than the Concept2's. It still picks up like dirt and gets stuck, so make sure that you keep that clean. I just wiped mine down. The next difference is the footholds are a little bit closer to the ZebX footholds. They're a little bit wider, which I personally prefer. I think the Concept2's are a little bit too close together. So I know a lot of guys can comment on it being too close together and kind of squashing your boys in place. The seat on the Vulcan Scull is a little bit softer. Can't really tell, but it is definitely a little bit more cushy, which I definitely do prefer as well. The handle, it's a very similar shape to the Concept2, but it doesn't feel quite the same. There's something about it, it feels not quite as angular, so it's not as ergonomic, but it's not that different once you get used to it. It's still pretty comfortable. The grip on it is nice. It's got a slimmer handle than like the ZebX did, but it's right around the same, maybe a little bit slimmer than the Concept2. So if you're doing a workout that's pretty grip intensive, it's definitely gonna be a win for the Vulcan Scull rower. So the whole front area, flywheel area of the Vulcan Scull more closely resembles the Concept2 Model E, and that's mainly in the base of the rower. Not a real big difference as far as functionality. You can still tip this up and store it. The one thing that you cannot do is you cannot bring this arm down. It's not adjustable at all. What you can do is you can flip the monitor down when it goes into storage, and there's this little button here, and then the monitor flips down. The whole seating position and everything is not the same as the Concept2. It's a little bit more horizontal, I want to say. The footholds go a little bit lower on the Concept2, which I personally prefer than the Vulcan Scull. and then you sit a little bit more just horizontal or parallel to the floor with the Vulcan Scull than you do with the Concept2. That's only really something that you're going to notice if you have done a ton of rowing over the years. Otherwise, most people aren't even going to notice that. The monitor is backlit and pretty easy to read. It is not the most clean looking when it comes to like having a bunch of values on it. You can swap through all the modes here. If you just pull the handle, it's going to quick start you, and it's going to quick start you into calories. The problem about this, and this is quite possibly the biggest issue with at least this version, is that once you quick start into calories, there's no way to quickly change it to distance other than holding select for 5 seconds, which is a huge part of a workout, and then it'll finally go to distance. That is going to be updated, but as of right now with my model, it hasn't been changed. I did comment on that, and so they're updating that. So probably by the time this video comes out, they're going to be having the new monitors. Another thing is this monitor does have a cell phone holder, which is really cool because I personally like to watch Netflix when I row, especially long distances, but it's literally just held on with rubber bands. It's a little janky, but I mean, I guess it works. It just kind of is what it is. And hell, if the rubber bands break, you can always buy new ones. The actual like flywheel area is a little bit bigger in comparison to the Concept2. And right now you're not gonna be able to tell, but obviously when I show you the differences side by side, it's gonna be a little bit of a difference. It's not a huge difference, it's just worth noting. And then there's a flywheel adjustment here on the Vulcan Scull. The numbers are etched into the side, and then there's a sticker. And then this is a cool Vulcan Scull logo, which I think is a cool little touch. But all in all, yeah, that's the Vulcan Scull rower. The actual like dimensions are very, very similar to the Concept2, which you're gonna see in just 1 minute. All right, so here we have the Concept2 on the left and the Vulcan Scull on the right. Dimension-wise, they're very, very similar. So the track pretty much looks identical on both of them. The seat is a little bit higher on the Vulcan Scull. If I get down here, you can see that. But otherwise, they're not that far apart as far as like height goes. Obviously, there's a little bit of a difference in the back stands, but that's really not going to make too much of a difference. The extra weight in the track of the Vulcan makes it so that it's a little bit more solid when you're rowing compared to the Concept2, which is a little bit lighter back there. That's just kind of to be expected. But on the flip side, it is a little bit easier to move the Concept2 around than the Vulcan Scull rower. Now going to the actual foot positions, here is kind of like the difference. See, the Vulcan goes up a little bit higher than the Concept2s. And this is having the Vulcan on the lowest setting and having the Concept2s on the lowest setting. That's what I row on typically on the Concept2. That's what I row on the Vulcan. So I'm always sitting a little bit higher on the Vulcan Scull, but it hasn't really affected my rowing that much at all, if anything. So when it comes to the monitors, the Vulcan Scull does extend out quite a bit closer to your face when you row than the Concept2. The Concept2 is a little bit further back. The Vulcan Scull has a pretty good readout, pretty good size display, but that's not saying that the Concept2 is bad at all. The Concept2 is very well laid out, logically laid out, easy to navigate. In my opinion, I think the Concept2 is a better layout as far as buttons go. It's just a little bit more intuitive than the Vulcans, which kind of, I don't know, maybe it just takes a little bit getting used to, but the Vulcan menu system is not as good. And that's gonna be mainly a user preference thing, but that's just how I feel about it. The flywheels, now you can tell that the Vulcan Scull flywheel is a little bit bigger than the Concept2, but it doesn't make a huge difference because the Concept2 is still a little bit harder to row on when compared to the Vulcan Scull. I did notice that in order to match up to like a setting 5.5 and 6 on the Concept 2, I would have to put the Vulcan Scull a little bit higher up, maybe close to 7 or 8. So yeah, you can stand both of these up. All you have to do is just tip them up. Everybody's pretty much used to storing Concept 2, so you know it goes the same way with the Vulcan. I'm not going to say anyone is better or worse. I did wish that the Vulcan monitor arm folded down compared to like the Concept 2, which does fold down and is a little bit more compact. It's out of the way, so you don't have to worry about it hitting anything. The Model E, if anyone ever has dealt with one of those, the monitor hits like everything. You just can't get it out of the way of certain things, and you can't store it as close to the wall because the monitor doesn't fold down. The Vulcan Scull, you can store flush with the wall when you fold the monitor down. So it's not that big a deal, but personally that's just how I would rather have it. And as far as dimensions go, that's pretty much it with the Vulcan Scull and the Concept 2. All right, so there you have it. There's the difference between the Vulcan Scull and the Concept 2. So when it comes down to it, would I recommend the Vulcan Scull rower? Absolutely. I think it is an excellent machine. I think if you're looking to get a competent rowing machine for a little bit less money, then there's nothing better than the Vulcan Scull rower. It's got pretty much all the same functionality as the Concept 2. It's a little bit more solid than the Concept 2, so if you're a bigger athlete, you're probably gonna prefer the ride of the Vulcan Scull than the Concept 2, just because of the extra weight in it. It does have its quirks. I think the monitor could be a little bit better. The interface could be a little bit better for sure. Some of the options do need a little bit tweaking, but like I said, by the time this video comes out, all of the monitors should be updated. One thing that I did not add in there was the monitors are not updatable on the Vulcan Scull rowers as compared to the Concept 2s, where you can just update the firmware. With the Vulcan Scull rowers, you will need to change out the complete monitor. But the better question is, do I think the Vulcan Scull rower is a substitute for the Concept 2 rower in a CrossFit setting? And for that, it is definitely not. The Concept 2 is going to be the gold standard. It is the gold standard. It will be for a long time. If you are a competitive CrossFitter, then you're obviously going to want the Concept 2. That's what's going to be in the open. That's what's going to be in sanctionals. And that's what's going to be at the games level. That's not saying that you can't use the Vulcan Scull rower to train for those things. The distances and whatnot are a little different. They're not that far off. So the effort that you're putting into the Vulcan Scull can be comparable to the Concept 2, but some of the values don't match up. It's like using the Assault bike, which is the standard, and using the Echo bike, which is not the standard, but will beat you up just as bad as the Assault bike, sometimes way worse than the Assault bike. The difference in price between the Vulcan Scull and the Concept 2 is about $200. That's no tax or anything. It's about $200. The Vulcan right now can be had for $660. That's not including shipping, which to California, it's like $150 to ship this thing there. So it does decrease some of the savings of the Vulcan Scull. The Concept 2 retails for $900. They never have any sales or anything like that. That's not including shipping. And if you buy a Concept 2 on Rogue, you get it shipped to California, it's about $50. So there's $950 versus the about $810 of the Vulcan Scull rower. But now if you are a garage gym athlete and maybe you don't even do CrossFit, maybe you're a gym owner and you have a boot camp gym or some kind of training gym and you just wanted a rower that you could get a workout in, that you could use to service people, the Vulcan Scull rower is an excellent machine. It's pretty intuitive to use and it does cost less than the Concept 2. So that's always a plus, especially coming from a gym owner's perspective. If you're trying to buy like 10 Concept 2s, that's a very, very expensive thing. So any little bit helps when it comes to saving a little bit of change for stocking up your gym. So if you're looking to pick up the Vulcan Scull rower, I highly recommend it. I think it's a great machine. Obviously, it doesn't replace the Concept 2 in a lot of ways, but that just kind of is what it is, and it comes with saving about $200 per unit, which is a pretty good amount of money, especially if all you're looking to do is get a workout in. If you guys have any questions about the Vulcan Scull rower, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and as always guys, please hit that like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching.